Hi, welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. You saw me all this morning. We're back again for the results of this leadership vote. Yeah, right. I think we all know where it's going to go, but I'm literally, here we are.
Representing 3.2% of the vote.
Sorry about that, folks. We got the sound back.
In second place, Chrystia Freeland with 11,134 votes, resulting in 2,729 allocated points, representing 8% of the vote.
Oh, my goodness.
In first place, the next Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, with 131,674 votes, resulting in 29,457 allocated points, representing 85.9% of the vote.
Hey, folks, we're living in the Soviet Union. Isn't that incredible? Is that a surprise to any of you out there? Sorry about the sound problem in the beginning there, but you heard Chrystia Freeland, 8%. Mark Carney, 85% of that's the Soviet Union. Did we think this was a setup? Did we think this was all designed for Mark Carney's coronation? Of course it is. Just well, I'm not surprised, but it's amazing to see this liberal corruption play itself out. Now, yeah, nobody was close. What about those 2/3 of liberals who couldn't vote because they're disqualified? I'm just amazed. This man, Mark Carney, is so incredibly corrupt. This is a man who can't tell you where his money's coming from or where his money's going. How many of the directorships he has are on companies that are for profit, and how many are philanthropic? He can't tell. He lied about why he moved his firm. He was the chairman of Brookfield Asset Management. And on February 26th, during the English language debate, Mark Carney said he had nothing to do with the decision to move that company south of the border. Nothing at all. Now, I'm just going to wait to see if Mark Carney has anything to say. And of course he will. I won't listen. I won't watch the whole speech. I've got a couple of other things to show you. Yeah, let's see your comments. I'll put the sound on as soon as Mark Carney gets to the stand. And I'm not gonna listen to Cleo introduce Mark Carney. Mark Carney will be up momentarily. Are being taken in by this nonsense. Canadians are being taken in to the point where we see in a poll today where Mark Carney, a Mark Carney-led Liberal Party, would potentially get a majority. This is an ECOS poll I showed you this morning. I find this to be just so outrageous. His character. Yeah. His daughter's talking about his character. This is a guy who used to hang around with Ghislaine Maxwell, the compatriot of Jeffrey. And it's incredible to me that this has gone totally obligingly unnoticed by the mainstream media in Canada. They've given this guy a pass every time. But I'll tell you this, I think Mark Carney will go for an early election because the longer he's out there before the public, and I will put this back on in a sec. As soon as Mark Carney mounts the stage, we'll listen to Mark Carney's incredibly irrelevant remarks. But as soon as Mark Carney announced that he was going to run for the leadership of the Liberal Party, you knew it was a fait accompli that he was going to win. It didn't matter who else was in that race with him. He was going to win. And Justin Trudeau and he had a deal worked out beforehand. Now, where is Justin Trudeau going next? What do you bet it's going to be the United Nations, where Mark Carney just came from as the goodwill ambassador for climate change? This is a revolving door. This is a revolving door. This is how government is run in Canada and around the world, and by the globalist World Economic Forum, by the United Nations, by the World Health Organization. And this is Mark Carney's reward for being a willing servant of the globalists, just as Justin Trudeau has been. And Justin Trudeau will go back to the globalists now. And it's incredible to me he's gotten away with this. But as I said, the longer Mark Carney is in front of the public, the more the Canadian public voters are going to be obviously aware that this man is not only has the personality of a reptile, his much vaunted intelligence and expertise is just that, much vaunted. There's nothing there. He's like clouds without rain, as the book of Proverbs likes to talk about. This is a man completely devoid of anything except imagery. He has absolutely no business being prime minister, but he's days away from becoming an unelected prime minister. 152,000 Liberals voted for him. Here he is now. And the sound's on, and I'll shut up for a while.
Prime Minister, I think it's clear we should just skip the generation. Alors, bonsoir tout le monde. Wow. This room is strong. This room is Canada strong. Thank you, Cleo. Thank you, Cleo. And to my wife, Diana, our children, Cleo, Tess, Amelia, and Sasha. Without your support, I wouldn't be standing here. And like the Prime Minister, without your examples, I wouldn't have a purpose. And without your love, I wouldn't have the strength that I need for what lies ahead. Thank you.
Mr. Chrétien, you still know how to energize the Liberal Party supporters like no one else can do it. You took courageous and historic decisions. You showed our allies that Canada will always stand up.
You have to laugh, eh? Krayden reminds us all that he refused to go to the war to Iraq. Probably not a bad idea. But now he wants to invade Russia. And they all stand up and clap for not going to Iraq, but they all want to invade Russia. That's how crazy Liberals are.
To become Liberals, including my father, to run as a Liberal candidate in Alberta in the 1980s. Some elections are tougher than others. And you inspired me. You inspired me over the years. And now to have an opportunity to continue your tradition of fiscal responsibility, social justice, and international leadership.
They just love each other. Liberals
Prime
just
Minister
love
Trudeau,
each other.
my time doesn't permit me to recognize all of your accomplishments. So I'll speak at a higher level. You have combined strength and compassion every day as a fighter for Canada.
Oh, I know it's stomach turning.
You have led us through some of the hardest challenges that this nation has ever faced. Aid.
At the same time, you have transformed Canada.
And you have to remember, Carney's French is really, really bad. It was so bad, he made a fool of himself during the French leadership debate. And
Democracy here and across the world.
where has Trudeau ever defended freedom?
Prime Minister, I think I am speaking for everyone here when I thank you for your hard work. As Ella Grace said, your hard work, for your leadership, and for your service to our great country. And I'd also like to thank you, Liberals, for having awarded me the greatest honor possible, which is to serve as your new leader. Thank you.
And don't forget, you're going to be the Prime Minister in a couple of days.
Merci, merci.
I'd like to thank the tens of thousands of volunteers across the country who have devoted themselves to rebuilding our country and to giving back hope to our country.
I pledge to you and to all Canadians that I will follow their example. I will work day and night with one purpose, which is to build a stronger Canada for everyone. But I will need help.
He needs lots of help.
A lot of help. And so I'd like to thank Christia, Frank, and Karina for your energy and ideas and leadership that you have brought to this campaign. And I would like also to thank those ministers who remained in their posts to serve Canada directly during this time of great peril.
Sorry, forget Mo.
And to the incredible group of Liberal MPs that we have, you are the voices for your communities, and you are the conscience of our party. Thank you for your service.
You believe the gall, the conscience of our party.
To give a sense of that service, I'm going to quote from a message that I and Christia and Karina and Frank, the four of us, received from someone called Bob Zettel. Now, Bob, full disclosure, I know the leader of the opposition's into full disclosure, so I'm going to, full disclosure. Full disclosure, just want to get this on the table. Bob goes to my church. Actually, I go to Bob's church because he goes there a lot more frequently than I do.
He goes to church?
Point is, Bob wrote to the four candidates, and he said, I quote, "Right now, everyone sees the main threat as the Trump tariffs. But the far greater challenge will be, as it always has been, to foster unity and a sense of the common good. There are those who will seek power by dividing us. We'll get to that later on. And we being the people of Canada, we need you, my fellow candidates, myself, to continue in positions of leadership to promote a united Canada, a commitment to common good and the respect and the rule of law throughout the world. See, I quote Bob because right now all Canadians are being asked to serve in their own ways. We're all being called to stand up for each other and for the Canadian way of life. So let me ask you, who's ready? Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me? 100%. Yes. Yes. Yes, Canada. Yes, Canada. The Liberal Party is united and strong and ready to fight to build an even better country.
One cliche after another. It's nauseating, I agree. We won't watch the whole speech.
Everything in my life has helped prepare me for this moment. 2 months ago, I put up my hand to run for leader because I felt we needed big changes, but big changes guided by strong Canadian values. The values I learned at the dinner table from my parents, Bob and Verley, and my 3 siblings, Brenda, Sean, and Brian. Values that I learned at the hockey rinks of Edmonton from my coaches.
Here's the hockey again.
Norman Lee. He exists. We didn't call him that to his face, by the way, but that was his. My parents were teachers, and they stressed the importance of hard work, of community, and of tolerance. My coaches were dedicated volunteers who taught me the importance of teamwork, ambition, and because it's Canada, humility. Des bonnes valeurs.
The right values, Canadian values. I took them with me to university.
Yeah, you're right, Bill. It will be the shortest term for any prime minister in Canadian history. You're dead on.
World. These same values have guided me in my work to build strong economies. And today, I will use those values again as we face this most serious crisis in a generation.
Know that new threats demand new ideas and a new plan. They know that new challenges demand new leadership. Canadians want positive leadership that will end division and help us build together.
This guy got an original thought in his head.
My government will put into action our plan to build a stronger economy, to create new trading relationships with reliable trading partners, and to secure our borders. What, Claire?
I have to be clear here. This will require change, big change. But I know that Canadians are ready. They've told me so across the country. People want change because they're concerned. They're concerned about the cost of living and the housing crisis as well. They're worried for the future of their young, their kids. They're worried about the future of Canada in the face of President Trump's threats and a more divided and dangerous world.
Now, I am a pragmatist above all. So when I see that something's that's not working, I will change it. So my government will immediately eliminate the divisive consumer carbon tax on families and farmers and small and medium-sized businesses.
And double it.
And we will stop the hike in the capital gains tax because we think builders should be incentivized for taking risks and rewarded when they succeed.
Trudeau's nodding. He's the one that introduced the legislation, so it tripped me off. Good show, Carney. What a bunch of hypocrites.
Canada needs more of this type of change. Change that puts more money in people's pockets. Change that makes our companies more competitive. Change that builds the strongest economy in the G7. Now,
all you're going to have is change left in your pocket.
There's someone who's trying to do the opposite. There's someone who's trying to weaken our economy.
Well, who would that be?
Yeah, Donald Trump. Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, as we know, has put, as the Prime Minister just said, unjustified tariffs on what we build, on what we sell, on how we make a living.
And you just put counter tariffs.
Workers and businesses. And we cannot let him succeed. And we won't. We won't. I am proud of the response of Canadians who are making their voices heard and their wallets felt. I am grateful for how our provinces are stepping up to the fight, because when we are united, we are Canada strong. The Canadian government has rightly retaliated and is rightly retaliating with our own tariffs that will have maximum impact in the United States and minimum impact here in Canada.
Lies.
Keep our tariffs on until the Americans show us respect.
It could be a long time, Marky boy.
And until they can join us in making credible and reliable commitments to free and fair trade. As Krista did. Yeah. And in the meantime, we will ensure that all the proceeds from our tariffs will be used to protect our workers.
Now, the Americans, they want our resources, our water, our land, our country even.
Hopefully they'll want you. Get rid of you. This guy is incredibly inept at putting a speech together. He strings cliche after cliche together.
And our country. Think about it. If they succeeded, they would destroy our way of life. In America, healthcare is a big business. In Canada, it is a right.
Oh, he's so inspiring.
America is a melting pot. Canada is a mosaic. Aux États-Unis,
in the US, differences are not respected or recognized. First Nations aren't recognized. And the French language
It's not true.
would never have any rights.
Probably not.
The joie de vivre culture and the French language are part of our identity.
No,
and we must protect that. We must promote that as well. We'll never give them up.
The Liberals are giddy tonight that they've got their trade war, which they are fomenting, which they are encouraging, because it's the only hope in hell they have of winning this next election.
It's not Canada. And Canada never, ever will be part of America in any way, shape, or form.
How many times did he say that during the leadership race? Probably every day.
Look, we didn't ask for this fight. We didn't ask for this fight. But Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves. So the Americans, they should make no mistake, in trade as in hockey, Canada will win.
It's the same speech. This is the same speech he's delivered every day. If you've heard him once, you've heard him every time.
But that victory won't be easy. We're facing the greatest crisis of our lifetimes. We have to do extraordinary things, and together. We have to build things that we've never imagined we would have to do at a pace we would have never believed possible. And above all, we must place people above money. We have to unite to build the strongest, the fairest, and the freest country in the world.
Now, Donald Trump is trying to weaken our economy. But there's someone else who, if he succeeds, will weaken our economy.
Oh, who would that
It's Pierre
be,
Poilievre.
Mark? I thought, okay, it's Pierre Poilievre, yes.
Pierre Poilievre just doesn't get it. He is the type of lifelong politician, and I've seen this type around the world, a lifelong politician who worships at the altar of the free market despite never having made a payroll himself. And now, in the face of President Trump's threats, Pierre Poilievre still refuses to get his security clearance. At a time when our national security is under threat as has never been before. At a time of immense economic insecurity, he would undermine the Bank of Canada. Monsieur Poilievre
has called for the shutting down of CBC at a time when disinformation and foreign interference are on the march.
On
He insults
CBC,
our
of course.
mayors and ignores the First Nations when it's time to build. He intends to put an end to international aid when democracy and human rights are in danger across the world. And he will also allow our planet to burn.
Poilievre would let our planet burn.
It's Trudeau's talking points, you're
It's
right.
ideology. It's ideology that betrays what we as Canadians value, each other. It's an ideology that also represents a fundamental misunderstanding of how the economy works. Now, unlike Pierre Poilievre, I've actually worked in the private sector. I know how the world works, and I know how it can be made to work better for all of us. And that knowledge is especially useful now in the service of Canadians when we must build a new economy and create new trading relationships. Let me tell you something else that we know that Pierre Poilievre doesn't. We know that markets don't have values, people do. And we know as liberals that it's our job our job to make markets, to make the economy work for all Canadians. These are the most powerful tool we've ever invented. They can find solutions to our greatest problems. And when the private sector, when the markets are governed well, they deliver great jobs and stronger growth faster than anything. But markets are also indifferent to human suffering, and they are blind to our greatest needs. So when they're not governed well, or not at all, they will deliver enormous wealth for the lucky few and hard times for the rest. And in this crisis, we must help those who are hit hardest by the American tariffs while we build our strength here at home. That's the right thing to do. That's the fair thing to do. That is.
Here comes the universal basic income. Here comes the socialist platform right here. Yeah, that's why they want another crisis. That's why they want a trade war. That's why they want to foment more tariffs so they can give you socialism.
So Donald Trump thinks he can weaken us with his plan to divide and conquer. Pierre Poilievre's plan will leave us divided and ready to be conquered. Because a person who worships at the altar of Donald Trump will kneel before him, not stand up to him.
Oh.
Pierre Poilievre's slogans are not solutions. His anger is an action. His division is in strength. Division won't win a trade war. Division won't pay the rent or the mortgage. Division won't bring down the price of groceries. Division won't make Canada strong. Voilà où mène la.
This is where negative politics and division and anger takes us. Half of the US fears the other half. They're wary of each other. We can't allow such a situation to occur here.
I'm already wary of you and weary of you.
The Americans are increasingly divided, and this will weaken them. And we will win this fight if we are united and strong. Yes, we might disagree over policy. We might disagree over hockey. You can support the Oilers in Ottawa. That's possible. It's a free country after all. But when it comes to Canada, we're all on the same side. Let's choose to be strong. Canada strong.
Now, I've learned a few things from long experience in crises. And the first is that plan beats no plan. And you need to distinguish what you can change from what you can't. We can't change Donald Trump. Can't change him. Nous devons comprendre ce que...
But we have to understand what we can and we must change. We are masters in our own house.
And we can. And because we're masters in our own home, we can control our economic destiny with a plan that puts more money in your pockets. A plan that will ensure your government spends less so Canada can invest more. A plan that builds millions of homes. A plan that makes us an energy superpower in both clean and conventional energy. A plan that creates new trade corridors with reliable partners. A plan that creates one Canadian economy, not 13. Because in Canada, we are stronger when we're united. We can give ourselves far, far more than Donald Trump can ever take away. But it will take extraordinary efforts. It won't be business as usual. We will have to do things we haven't imagined before at speeds we didn't think possible. We will do it. We will do it for the common good so that everyone benefits. You know, I do care about the economy, but it's not because I'm an economist. It's because I care about people. That's why I'm a liberal. That's why we are liberals. On sait.
It's clear that the value of a strong economy starts with the workers who have good, well-paying jobs today and who have better futures for them and for today's youth. We know as liberals that we can't redistribute what we don't have. We also know that we can't be strong abroad if we're weak at home. We also know that we cannot build a better future if we're unable to manage the present.
So we need a strong economy, but when we're fighting for a strong economy, we're fighting for good Canadian health care for everyone. We are fighting for strong support for our seniors who built this country. We are fighting for childcare for young families that they put in place. We are fighting for dental care and pharma care for everyone who needs it. We are fighting for rights. We are fighting for a strong economy so we can create a more sustainable world for our children and grandchildren, and we will deliver. Well, good. I know that these are dark days. Dark days brought on by a country we can no longer trust. We are getting over the shock, but let us never forget the lessons. We have to look after ourselves, and we have to look out for each other. We need to pull together in the tough days ahead. And so, to those families watching this evening in Fort Smith, in Edmonton, and across every community in Canada, I promise you this. Together, we can and we will get through this crisis. We can and we will come out stronger than ever. And we will, because Canada is built on the strength of its people. From our mines to our ports, from our logging roads to our city streets, we're strongest when we're united, when we're one economy, not 13, when we can cheer for different teams and still be on one team when it counts. When we come together, we build things that last because we are Canada strong. Vive la Canada!
Well, folks, that was amongst the worst acceptance speeches I have ever heard in my life. This is a man who chronically lies, who can't tell the truth to save his life, and tells the same stories night after night. That was the same speech you would have heard in Kelowna, BC, Edmonton, Alberta, or Medhurst, Ontario. That was a horrible speech. Absolutely awful. And all I can say, sorry, and all I can say is, in conclusion here, I like Mark Carney. This is the man who was the chairman of a company, Brookfield Asset Management, that didn't pay any taxes in Canada and paid 5% corporate tax. This is a man who moved the headquarters of that company to the United States last fall and then lied about when he moved it in the English leadership debate. Why did he move it to the US? Because his policies, if he becomes prime minister, and he expected he would become prime minister, it's another piece of evidence that this whole thing was rigged. This liberal leadership contest was rigged from the start. Carney knew he was going to win. So what did he do? He moved his company to the States where it would not be subject to Carney's corporate carbon tax or carbon tariff. None of these things. What does he call his carbon tariff, by the way? And I'll leave it with you here. A carbon border adjustment mechanism. It's devastated Europe already. And this is the guy who said he was going to use emergency powers to enforce his policies to a crowd in Kelowna, BC, just a couple of weeks ago.
My government is going to do is to use all of the powers of the federal government, including the emergency power, of the federal government, to accelerate the major projects that we need in order to build this economy and take on the Americans.
You can't handle the truth. Resolve to resist.
This is a man that is so corrupt. He doesn't have a clue about how to be sincere. He is amongst the worst speech makers I've ever seen in my career. I've never witnessed anybody who rolls out the same prattle every night and cannot even think of something new to say. This is a dark day in Canadian history. This was the most rigged leadership contest in Canadian history. This man had no right at all to be either the leader of the Liberal Party, and he has even less of a right to be Prime Minister of Canada with 1,500 people voting him into that office. This is an outrage. It's a national outrage. And what about those 2/3 of Liberals who didn't get the vote? What about them? You think they would have voted for Mark Carney? Or maybe they got rid of them because they weren't going to vote for Mark Carney. So he could get his 85%. Anyway, I've got more to say tomorrow. I want to thank you for joining me tonight. It's hard to listen to Mark Carney, but that's what we're going to have to listen to if we don't get rid of this guy fast. And that's what we have to do. We need a new election. We need a new government, and not one led by Mark Carney. It's time to say adieu, goodbye, farewell, amen to Mark Carney, even though he just got here. He's already overstayed his welcome. Thank you so much.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Don't forget, I love that little vignette. We'll play that for you again in the morning. Thanks for watching tonight, folks. We'll be back again with more of the news you need to know. Let's continue to resolve to resist, because you just saw the reason why. Mark Carney, he's Justin Trudeau on Valium, but his policies are Justin Trudeau on steroids. We'll be back.